3 years ago, I refitted a 40-year-old Contessa 26 and took her on an amazing 7,800 nautical mile ocean voyage. We crossed the Atlantic twice, but a knockdown on the second crossing and COVID-19 put an end to my solo circumnavigation. So now, I'm building a new boat, smaller, lighter, but more suited for a solo circumnavigation. The Wave Rover 650. Well, Rovers, in the last episode you saw me building this structure, which for those of you who didn't see that, it's really just 2 layers of polyethylene, which we call vapor barrier here in Canada, and it's separated by the stud work, and that is trapping air. And because the air is trapped, it's giving us an insulative value, and a pretty substantial one at that. Just with a little electric heater, we are able to create a difference in here of about 12 degrees from outside. And by putting in 2 or 3 heaters, we're able to get the temperature up to the 20 degree or 22 degree mark that we need to have good flowability with the epoxy when we start fiberglassing, which brings me to what this video is all about. We are ready in all respects to start fiberglassing the hull of Wave Rover. So what we're going to do is we're going to put on the chines a very heavy bi-axial cloth. It's 18 ounce. That's about 600 grams per square meter. And then we're going to put over top of that a 10 ounce cloth, which not exactly sure what that is in grams per square meter, but it's substantial. So altogether, that'll be a pretty good structure that we'll create. It'll be bigger pieces on the bow, and there will be structure around the transom as well. So a lot to do. Time to crack on. So I'd like to introduce you to my good friend Bill England. Bill had lent me about 20 clamps for the big glue up here, and now he's just picking them up. And Bill, why do you have so many clamps?
Well, I'm building a 48-foot George Bueller designed diesel duck troller yacht.
Well, we're going to be visiting that build in an episode very soon. Very interesting. Time to crack on. So what I'm doing right now is I'm cutting through 3 layers of bi-axial 10 ounce cloth. This is the structural cloth that we're using on the chines. And the total length here is 21 foot 10 inches, which is enough to do from the stern all the way to the bow. And once it's rolled up, I'm putting it in this bag just to keep any dust. We've made the whole area dust free right now. I want to keep it that way so that the cloth is nice and clean when it goes on the boat. And just to make sure that I'm getting through this, because glass dulls these and I can even see the dulling, I'm giving myself a new blade every time. So you just saw me cut this glass, and you want to handle it just as little as possible, because every time you touch it, threads are going to come loose. So I've taken the excess, and it's not garbage by a long shot. I've taken that excess, I've put it into a plastic bag, and it's marked as leftover, and I'll be able to use that at a later date. But right now, this bow piece, I just want to fold it up neatly. And I'm going to write bow on it, even though it's pretty obvious once you unfold it. But until you unfold it, you just don't know what it is. It just looks like a great big piece of fiberglass. And then just gently fold it up. And I just have these bags. I'll pop it inside. And then I'll mark the bag with bow. And it'll go with the pile of bags that I currently have that are all marked with the individual pieces, because in the heat of battle, and by that I mean when the fiberglassing starts and your hands are covered in epoxy, you want to be able to know where the stuff is, and by marking it and double marking it, you can't go wrong. Well, Rovers, tomorrow is a big day. We will be fiberglassing the hull of the Wave Rover 650. We are currently H-24. It's exactly 24 hours before I'll get here tomorrow and we will start the fiberglassing. I still need to get a fin roller, but they tell me it will arrive today. And the temperature inside here is right now only 5 degrees, and we have to get that up to 20 to 22 degrees Celsius. So I have just turned the heaters on and I'll let them go overnight, and by tomorrow I suspect we'll be very close to our goal of 20 degrees. Anyway, time to crack on. Alright, so what I'm doing here is the bi-axial cloth has been cut to 10-inch wide strips. So we only need to wet out a 10-inch wide surface. So I'm just marking these index lines so we know where to put the epoxy, so we're not letting it run down in areas we don't need it till tomorrow. So you just like when we scribed. Well, Rovers, it is 24 hours later and we are at H hour. One of the items I was waiting for was this fin roller. You can see it has little fins and it's used to push air out of the fiberglass material. We are using 18-ounce bi-axial cloth, and that was the reason I was waiting for this. Normally you can just use a spreader to get the air out of regular cloth, but not with that 18-ounce. It's quite heavy and dense. So we've got this. We are ready in all respects. Mrs. Rover is here to lend a hand, and that's a good thing. Okay, so we're pretty much setting up here. We have our 2 paint trays ready to go, and a couple of rollers with foam rollers. We have our fin roller right there standing by, a knife, a couple of brushes, a couple of spreaders. Up here I have a couple of pairs of scissors standing by, and our temperature. We are at 19 degrees. We are about 3 degrees lower than we want to be, but the epoxy itself is going to be heated up. Have some gloves standing by. And over here in this black coffee container, I have acetone. I just have a lid on it just to keep the fumes from coming up. But we'll be dipping our fin roller in here to keep it clean so that it keeps rotating for us. All right, it's time to go and mix up some epoxy. So we're in here with Mrs. Rover. We're in the bathroom. That's the area we've been keeping the epoxy because it's quite warm in here. And we're mixing up a batch of 5-to-1. We're using the fast hardener.
I think it needs one more squirt. It's not quite enough yet.
That's right. Yep.
Okay, let's check that on the level. And still 5/20. No, it's not quite there.
It's not quite a level surface. You might want to just put it on the windowsill, which is a little more level.
Okay, 3 and 3. No,
So you can see it's quite a distance down. They could use a little more by the looks of it.
Maybe just a half a squirt. Okay.
Yep, that's looking pretty good.
I will start stirring.
Now we want to stir for at least a minute. We want to make sure we stir right down to the bottom. So at this point we've just wetted out the boat. Sorry we couldn't get any video of it. It's pretty hectic. But wetted out the boat, and then you can just see the shiny surface there. Put the bi-axial on. You can see it's quite thick, and it just sticks to that. Now, of course, it's not penetrating through. We're going to have to come back now and wet it out on the surface. But we're going to get all the layers on first, and then we'll come back and wet all of them out at the same time. Getting it super wet because this stuff, the bi-axial, really sucks it up. Now I'd like to take a moment to add a new name to our benefactors bulkhead, Nikki Maravi. So what is a benefactor? Well, these folks have made a contribution of $100 US or more to the project, and their names will be affixed to a bulkhead inside Wave Rover and will be traveling with me on our circumnavigation. Now these donations truly are much appreciated. Now in the next video, we'll see how the glass turned out, and we're going to go on a very interesting field trip. Now Mr. Speckles and I would like to welcome our newest patron, Jolie Morgan. Now, if you'd like to know more about Wave Rover's patron page and Benefactors bulkhead, I have links to both those pages in the video description. Now, another way to help Wave Rover, and it doesn't cost you a dime, is by sharing our content on your social media. So now, as always, Rovers, thanks for watching. Give us one more. Brilliant.